Thank you everybody for joining us today. We have another wonderful Highlander Wisdom webinar today with Kim Tuttle. We're very excited to have her on board with us. So like I said before, I've given everybody the ability to turn your camera on. If you want to, feel free. You don't have to, but it's going to be a conversation. So feel free to just jump in, talk when you are. We'll have a chance to ask some questions, everything like that. And I'll answer some questions in the chats. And if you have any questions, feel free to just shoot them in the chat and we can answer them as we go. So without further ado, I will let you go ahead, Kim.
So good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to kind of share my journey of working with the teenagers through this whole pandemic. I will love to definitely say that I am who I am because of Radford, because of the professors that I encountered at Radford, because I was one of those kids who had no clue as to what I wanted to do with my life. I just knew I had to go to college, and there wasn't an option in my family. You went to college and that was it. And it was my encounter with professors like Dr. Wachowski, Dr. Riddle, and Dr. Graham that really made me realize what I want to do with my life. And I'm so thankful that it was teaching. And I saw how much they poured into me to become the best at Radford and the best student I could be. And so that's why that's why I am in this classroom today. And this is why I say that I give my heart and soul in everything I do, because I learned from the best. And I enjoyed every single second that I was at Radford. And this past year, I was granted the opportunity to say that I'm the 2019 Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools Teacher of the Year. And that was a wonderful experience. And it has been a wonderful experience. And I'm sad to have to give up my crown in May, but I know that it is something in which that I'm really ready to share this journey and happiness with the next teacher in line. So just to let you know that this is my 22nd year in teaching, and each year it is like a new year. I feel like a new teacher every single year. I still get the butterflies walking into my classroom, and I have not been back in my classroom since March 5th. And so when we went on spring break March 5th, I never in a million years thought that was the last time I was going to see my students. But that was it, in spring break. And I see them on Zoom, and I drive by their homes, and I in the driveway, and I stop by to speak to them while they're playing basketball, so that I can have that contact with them once again, because our students are still in need of that. So I miss my kids, and hopefully they miss me as well. But I want to talk to you about what this new way of living is doing for our students and doing with our students, our teens. I made a comment at the very beginning of this to my students. I posted on Instagram that I want them to be like my English boyfriend, and my English boyfriend they know is Shakespeare. Like, I am absolutely in love with William Shakespeare. Everything about him and his work and how he was able to write well above and beyond his time period just amazes me. And I told them, I said, I want them to be the next William Shakespeare during this quarantine. And, of course, we had this conversation about, well, what does that mean? What does that look like? And I told them that during the bubonic plague, Shakespeare was able to create 154 sonnets. And these are sonnets in which we are still teaching in our classroom today, that we are enjoying, and we're analyzing, and we're becoming one with these pieces. And I told them I want them to use this time period as a way to reflect, a way to look at their lives, a way to just take time to breathe. And they were like, no, I don't want to be like Shakespeare. That takes too much writing. I was like, well, then be like the lady during the polio epidemic. Was it Mrs. Abbott? I said she created Candyland. She created Candyland during the polio epidemic. So in the 1940s, you could be like that. Create a game with the way life is for them, and everything is at their hands, and the technology. I want them to be innovative about this thinking and this new way of living that we are in at this moment. And they really took off on that. And so one of the things that I have charged them to do is, ever since March 5th, when actually the week after March 5th, because I was during a spring break, and of course no work during spring break. But after that, I told them what I want them to do every day is to not only, I want you to write your thoughts and do journals and write a story. And I don't care if you just vent, but I want you to take a video or a picture, 1 second for every single day until May 20th, which is our last day of school. And I said, until May 20th, and then I want you to submit that as your final project. So they have been taking a picture or a video for 1 second over the past month, and they're loving it and they're excited. And it's an app, it's 1 second everyday app, and they take a picture, they do a video, and they're able to journal, and they're writing down their thoughts. And I'm doing that as well because it's therapeutic, and they need this form of therapy during this time period. Because when I tell you that I am the #1 advocate for kids today and teens, I am a true advocate of what they're going through. And I hear people say, "Oh, teens today, they're all in their phones, and they always look down and nothing but thumbs." Yes, however, they are so bright. They are far beyond the years in which I was at that time, at that age, in that time period. And you have to think about this. We're all experiencing this in a new way. This is something new for all of us. None of us have been a part of this. But can you imagine what it's like as a kid going through this? Here, we're adults. We know we have a lot to juggle. We have jobs, we have family, we have to pay bills, we have to do the food, the shopping, and all these things. But our kids, our teens, they're struggling, because my 11th graders right now, their #1 worry is, am I still going to be able to get into college? Can I still get in? Are they still going to accept me? What if we go to pass fail? Well, what is that going to do to my GPA? What about my scholarship? Are they going to take it away? Or college is going to understand the reason why we're not taking the ACT or the SAT? That's their worry at this moment. And that is a worry that they shouldn't be dealing with, but they are. So when, the memes are out there about, oh, they're at home and they are, watching TV and they're on their phones and they're just sleeping. Yes, but majority of the kids, they are worried about what is next. And that is something in which I try to talk with them. And I meet with my students 3 times a week, but we do a visual 1 time, and through Zoom 1 time a week, and where I can actually just lay my eyes on them, because I want to see them. I want to hear from them. And we don't talk about school at first. We talk about what's going on in your life. Oh, well, kid said, well, hey, I learned to cook macaroni and cheese for the very first time. Not the box macaroni and cheese, but the real macaroni and cheese. And then one student actually taught a lesson and he was making macaroni and cheese out of the box for us right there in class. And these are simple things that bring a joy to our students that they are so needy. And because it is the test, they're worried about testing. And especially with the AP did not let the AP test go. It's still happening. Our kids are still taking the AP test. And all the IB test has been canceled. The ACT has been canceled. SAT has been canceled. Our state exams have been canceled. But AP, the College Board, is still having this in session. And they're worried about this because it's a lot of days missing. There's one, yes, we're doing online learning. Yes, we're talking about the content, but that there is so much value with one-on-one face-to-face, which is one of the reasons why I had talked with them this weekend and said, I would love to see you all. I'm a face person. I want to lay my eyes on you. I want to see a name. I want to be a part of what you're experiencing so that we can all be a part of this, a stakeholder in our teams. And so that is one of the things I just wanted to share with you all about ways in which our teens are reaching out, and they need to reach out for help, because a lot of times for our students, coming to school was the one chance they had to talk with somebody to say, hey, I believe in you, or hey, how's your day? Or this is the one time that they're being fed. And in a school district as large as ours, we have about 150,000 students in our school district. And we have almost 4,000 students who have no computer access or internet access at this moment, which is why we cannot provide grades for our students. We have to continue teaching. We have to continue teaching the content and engaging our students, which as teachers, we are working harder now more than ever, because we have to fill that gap between that personal connection of learning the content. Now we have to bring that personal connection into a computer screen. And so when we have students who are sitting at home with those huge gaps of no internet access, that makes it difficult for not only the students, but also for the teachers. And I say hats off to all the teachers around the world who are going through this and working with all of our students to make sure that their needs are being met educationally, emotionally, and spiritually. Because I know many of my colleagues here in my district who they gave their students their phone number because students are, they're worried about what's next, about being fed, or they need to know where can they find food, because we have food drop-offs, but a lot of our students don't have access to get to those food drop-offs. So there are teachers working behind the scenes, making sure their students are still being fed. And so I want to open up to kind of questions that you all may have when it comes to what we're seeing with our students and the teens, and what you all have experienced yourselves. Oh, sorry, my thing is on a timer. Here we go. So any questions that you all may have?
Hi, so I'm not a teacher. I'm a parent of a junior and a senior in high school. If you have any advice on how to keep them on a regular schedule, and trying to explain to them why it's so important to stay on a regular schedule. I've been kind of using this as an opportunity for them to kind of figure it out on their own, so that especially when my senior gets to college, she's already learned that lesson, and that she won't, tank freshman year because she's staying up too late and,
Right.
stuff like that. But it doesn't seem to be working so far.
Well, one of the things I'm working with my own teens at my house, because one of the things they do is they like to stay up late until 3 o'clock in the morning doing all the work for the next day so that they can sleep in. And so we're having to work that process through them. But what I tell my children and my own students is that you still have to follow the schedule. But it's to the point where to say to a teen, oh, I'm gonna shut your phone off at 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock is kind of difficult. But sometimes you just have to shut it down. And that to become mentally healthy, you're going to have to shut your body down so that it can recoup. And so my thing is, I would definitely just stress with your teens at home is just shut the computer off, turn the TV off, and you can show them. The studies say that when you're on your phone so late at night and you go to bed, your mind and your brain never shuts down, is always working. And that's where you have the deficits in your brain. And I saw a question pop up about how do we go to online learning. My district I will have to say, I love my school district. They saw this happening and they saw it coming. So what they did was they went ahead and released the kids home, and they gave the teachers an opportunity to learn all the different tools and avenues about what is out there, as well as they created a hub, a little platform for all the teachers to access. So the teachers didn't have to do a lot of the legwork. The district already provided that for us. So the online learning was easier for us because the leaders that we had within the different content areas, they had already pre-slugged into different hubs for us to access. So for the English content, we had an area in which we could go to for just 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, and these are the resources that we could access. And we already have, at our school, we are already a one-to-one with students to computers. So a lot of our tools were already set up for the online learning. I think the hardest piece, which is making sure that our students show up to our Zoom meetings. That honestly has become the hardest thing. And my students, I have my faithful ones who show up and they say it's too early and my class starts at 11:30. Oh, that's too early. No, it's not early. That's lunchtime. Like in normal day, you would already be in my class. So it's not early. So one of the things that, you have to do is learn to laugh at the kids and find the humor in it so that they keep on coming back. And that's one of the things where my students, although it's 11:30 is early, they still keep on coming back. And they, we tell jokes, and we sometimes start the class off with jokes and like bad dad jokes, those bad dad jokes. And that they're not funny, but then they are funny because they're not funny. So I find ways to bring them back in and build that relationship. And I think with any teen, any kid, any student, relationship is the key. That is the powerhouse in order to get them connected and to get them to understand whether it's the content, whether it is what's going on in the classroom, and getting to know one another. And that's one of the things that I'm a true component of, and I guess it's not as difficult for me with that relationship piece, because at the beginning of every semester that I have with my students, I don't open a book. We don't do content work. We do relationship work. And I build a family first in my classroom before we even get to the content, because then it becomes so easy. So that's how we address the online learning piece. And the 1 second every day submissions, I get to see them. And they share them with me. And I told them because they start sharing them with weekly. I don't want to see them weekly because I want it to be like a Christmas present at the very end, because I want to see what has happened over the course of their time period. And so what I am doing, I'm reading their journals, and I'm asking them to analyze, the news that they see, to read a newspaper. And you'd be shocked the number of kids who do not read a newspaper, but I'm forcing them to read the newspaper, watch the news, to engage in what's going on in everyday life. And so I'm reading their perspective so I know what's going on in their lives. And that's how I'm able to connect with them. But for the 1 second every day and that app, that is something that it's going to be my Christmas present at the end. So I can then respond back to them in a letter. And what I do every semester is I try to write my students a closing letter, and so that they're leaving with something, a voice from me as what I have learned from them over the course of the semester.
You had said earlier that you give your phone number to some students who don't have who aren't able to eat because of COVID and whatnot. What kind of support do you provide for them? Or I mean, you said you check up on them, or what have you been doing?
Well, I actually just this past Friday, I did my own little one-man parade because I knew a student was celebrating her 17th birthday, and she was kind of sad to be home without her friends. So it was me, a one-man parade. I decorated my car, put stuff all over my car, and I went to her house and honked the horn, and hey, it's just me. But I just want to do little things so that they remember that they are still remembered, not only by me, but the community as well. And so, yes, that's one of the things that I've always been a true component of. I've always fed my kids. So I always provide for my kids. So it doesn't matter whether I want to know whether if you need it, but I'm not going to put you in that position where you have to come and tell me. So I actually provide food here, and you don't even have to ask. You just go and walk over to my closet, grab the food that you need, and then keep it going. But what I do, I have given, my students have my phone number so that if they need me for anything, because a lot of our students are working, you'd be surprised the number of teens who are working from 11 in the morning to 8 at night because their parents have lost their jobs and they're trying to find and provide, and they're working at Harris Teeter or Publix or Starbucks to make the extra income. And so when those students cannot come to and show up to class online, that's the least of my worry, that they're not showing up to class, because I can contact them and I'll talk to them outside of that Monday class period that we have, because I want to make sure that they're well taken care of in other ways. And so I think that's just the way most teachers are. If students need a ride home and their car broke down, you take them home. They need a jacket, buy them a jacket. They need supplies, give them supplies. As part of the altruistic piece to us, that giving piece, that we walked into this profession because we want to give something of us to others. So yes. I see a question about, are you addressing students who are not able to, the home environment? For those students who cannot, and those students who I have not seen, I have actually called and we have a conversation one-on-one. So it's not something in which I let everybody in the class know who has underlying situations. And there are some students, when it comes to Zoom, what I've learned over the years, because I used Zoom before this pandemic, is that students from certain areas do not want their homes to be seen. And so that is an invasion of their privacy. And so because one student may have a really pretty family room versus another student may not have, well, I'll say it's part of the have-nots, and they're not as well affluent. And so in those cases, I'll just say, okay, I'll call you and let's talk. And so we'll have a conversation just one-on-one to make sure that their needs are still being met. So.
I actually have a quick question. How do you anticipate this pandemic and how it has kind of put a kibosh on this end of this semester? How do you anticipate, if you're a freshman or a sophomore, how do you anticipate this impacting them for next year? And how does that impact your curriculum starting out next year, knowing that this happened?
Well, I'm hoping and praying that we will be back in August, but I'm also praying that this changes everybody, not just me, not just my students. I hope this brings a different awareness to everyone, to bring light onto what it is that we need to appreciate a little bit more. When it comes to the curriculum that I'm providing, it made me give that moment of, see, I told you so, when it comes to the standardized testing, that do you really need a standardized test to tell a teacher, when a student takes a standardized test, it is 1 day, 1 second, 2 or 3 hours, and you're trying to tell me that's going to define my student whether or not they passed or did not pass, when I've had them an entire semester. So by them releasing the state testing, is, see, I told you so, you don't need it. So there's more to learning versus bubble A, B, C, and D. And so with my approach for the remaining of this semester is, what are the skills I really want my students to know and understand? And then I create my content based off that. So even down to the release of Self-Made on Netflix. That is a powerful piece talking about Madam C.J. Walker. Many students today have no idea who Madam C.J. Walker is. Well, one of their assignments was to watch Self-Made and to do a literary analysis on Self-Made based off comparing the time period to now, and the emasculating of men, the defining of beauty, the power of women, and the power of minority women. So they were able to see and compare from the past until now. So it's making me smile because now we're using skills that we should already have been using, and having our students do assignments that really ask them to apply logical, applicable information to help them sustain in our society. What I am sad about is the fact that, graduation is for all seniors, whether you're a high school or college, that's such a defining moment in your life that has now been taken away. And we have students here who are, first generation high school graduates, and or they're going off to college for the first time, and their family, and it's a big moment that they no longer have. And I'm sad for them, and I'm sad for that memory, and I'm sad that they're not able to experience prom. And especially for my school, this year, Belk, they were providing prom for my entire school. They were giving every single one of my students a dress, a suit, shoes, jewelry, makeup, haircut. They were paying for the venue, paying for the food, the DJ. And that experience of a lifetime is now no longer there. Now, Belk is amazing, and they're giving every single student here a gift card to go and buy whatever it is they need to buy for their dorms, for their back to school attire, and then giving them a swag bag, a book bag of things. But there are memories that are now no longer available for students across the world. But hopefully they're making their own new memories, because I know, as a parent of two teens who are busy between sports and practice and games, we were stuck in a rat race. And this has forced us to slow down and to appreciate life, and to we always had dinner together at 5 or 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at the dinner table, but it's forcing us to have a conversation. And hopefully with our students, they're now having conversations with their families that they want to sit and have. Because I took a poll with my students at the beginning of the school year and asked them, how many of you still have dinners with your families? Very few. Because they're like, oh, well, we eat it in the car, or I pick it up on my way to work, and I don't see my mom until I get home off work at 10 or 11 o'clock. And so it doesn't happen. And it makes me go back to when President Reagan gave one of his last speeches to the American people, and said, talking about the importance of the dinner table with the family, that's where history is being made. That's where change is being made. And so hopefully this pandemic is not forcing, but kind of pushing our families to remember what family life is all about. Because that's the beauty of life, is just having someone to care for you, to love you. But then it also makes me sad because there are some students who they were coming to school because they were receiving the love at school. They didn't have that supportive family or friends at home, but they had it at the school, and they were getting it at school, which is why I try my hardest almost daily to have some kind of contact daily with some of my students I go through. So whether I text and I text parents, and I talk to the parents, I call parents, I email the kids, I talk to the kids through Instagram, through Snapchat, through TikTok. I'm trying to find every social media outlet I can, so that the kids can remember that they are still valuable, and they're missed. And so, yeah.
I had a question. Do you see, when this pandemic is over, do you see this pandemic changing your approach to teaching than what you have done in the past?
I think what this pandemic has made me do is to realize and to really value in-class, honestly, value my in-class time and that time that I'm having with my students. I valued that before, but I miss it. And when I'm sitting in this empty classroom right now, it makes me sad. So I think what this pandemic will do for everybody is to really look at honestly, what are the skills that are really needed? What do we need to do to best meet the needs of all of our students so they can apply it to be sustained and to sustain their lives in our society? I think that's what this pandemic is going to do. It's going to change curriculum. And one of the things that I was talking with them the other day is that this time in our history, in our piece, they'll be able to talk to their grandkids and their kids and their grandkids about this. And this time in history will be in the books, the same way the Spanish flu was in the books, the bubonic plague was in the books. All of these viruses that change history, they're going to be a part of it. And one of the things that is interesting is I had a student that I took to London, I forgot when Brexit was all in the process. And so we were over there with the voting of Brexit. And so we saw the beforehand when they were campaigning, and we were there the day they voted, and then we left the day after the vote came out. And I told them then, you just lived through this historical moment that you're going to read about and see in the magazines and see in the history books. And this student that I was talking about that, she sent me a text. She's like, oh my gosh, this is another thing that's going to happen in a history book that I've lived through. And I was like, yep, it sure is. So they're living through historical moments that will change their lives, and it's going to change all of our lives. And I'm hoping that those powers that be in the education world will see the need to reevaluate curriculum, the standards, the testing, and what really is needed. That is my prayer, because I would love to have a conversation with Betsy DeVos, and let's have a conversation about what education should look like here in America so that we can be at the top of our game when it comes to facing other countries, when it comes to math, when it comes to science, and even to the writing skills. Because writing, if you talk to a lot of the college professors, writing is where a lot of our students lack. They lack that component. When it comes to the math, that we are so relying on calculators. And I know even with my husband, who, he teaches AP physics, what he does is he has his students not use calculators for a long time because he wants them to learn the process up here, because it's a component we have lost. So hopefully through this pandemic, Miles, that education is reevaluated, especially our standardized testing, because there are many kids who do extremely well in the classroom, but when they are sitting down to take that standardized test, they freeze. That doesn't make them any less competent. That doesn't make them any less intelligent, just that they freeze. And that's just how majority of the students are. And so hopefully this will have people say, okay, well, maybe we don't need to have as much pressure on our standardized testing area. So, any other questions? I will definitely say thank you for what you all are doing in the world of education. Thank you for, you have teams, if you're working on the campus, if you're working with students. I just want to say thank you because they need an advocate. They need someone there for them and with them to walk them through this process, because this is hard and they're struggling. But hopefully with everybody as a key stakeholder in their lives, that they will get through this. Okay. If that's it, I'll say thank you.
If anybody else has any questions, feel free to jump in. But thank you everybody for joining us today. I think this has been really, really helpful for a lot of people and a lot of good information. So thank you, Kim, for presenting for us. I've really enjoyed the past couple of weeks, and we're learning more. We're getting better with these webinar things. So thank you, Kim, for being our presenter today. If anybody else has any other questions, I'll let you jump in real quick before I sign off. All right, I think we're good.
All right, be blessed, be safe.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Bye, Michelle.
Wait till we get to see you up in Charlotte again soon.
Yes, I know, really soon.
Thanks, Kim, for all you do for Radford and for the Charlotte area.
Yes, thank you for what you do. All right, bye.